Welcome to WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. And now, here's your host, Randy Harris.
Welcome to WFPC Podcasting. We hope you're enjoying this program. As you might remember, WFPC was our radio station. It is what brought me to Petersburg and Pike County back in 1988. That was 8 years before our producer was even born. The guy behind the camera is Dylan Query, a local fellow who has left Pike County to pursue a film career, and now he's back. He's brought a beautiful wife, a beautiful daughter, and a baby son with him. He is creating his business right here in Pike County. He's stepping away from behind the camera to in front of the camera today to tell us more about Query Productions. Dylan, welcome.
Thank you, Randy.
Dylan, you are always here, but you're behind the camera. Today you're sitting out in front. You've got a grand opening of your new business. Tell us when and what's going on there.
Yeah. So I grew up in Pike County, graduated from Pike Central High School in 2015, and then I moved on to Ball State University in Muncie, and I went to school there for about 4 years. After I graduated, I worked in a corporate environment for 4 or 5 years.
And that was in the film industry.
So, it was in video production. So, that's what I studied, was video production. Now, gradually, as I've progressed my career, I've slowly started experimenting with film. With first it was short films, and then that kind of led into feature-length films, which some people are aware of in the area. But after my time in corporate environment for about 5 years, which I think was really
that's where you learn.
Yeah, that's
you
where
you
I got
learn
my
by
feet
working
wet.
for the best, and you might have your own ideas.
Yeah.
I worked for some pretty good companies, but I had my own ideas. But you still take what they have to tell you, you learn, and then you figure out later why they did it this way.
Yeah. I'm super grateful for that company and my time at that company. That company was actually they're called Allegion, and they're a holdings company for security products. So if you've ever heard of Schlage locks, the company I worked for owns Schlage and a variety of other security products. And my role at that company was I would create internal and external communications, sometimes working directly for the executive leadership team. So I spent a lot of time with the CEO and the other executives. My office was actually one floor below the executive level at that company, so had a lot of exposure. And I think the initial impression that you have whenever you're working under those high level individuals is you kind of feel a little anxious, you feel a little scared. But it was a great a time for me to get my feet wet, because at a young age I had exposure to these high performing individuals, and what I learned the most was they're just people. And so I got to know them. I became friends with them. Even in some cases, I spent some time with the CEO's family, and that was just a really, I think, a humbling experience. And it taught me a lot about the nature of communicating within an organization, and establishing relationships with your coworkers. It was, I kind of grew up, I was more of a loner, and I had a really hard time branching out and, connecting with people. And I think that working in that environment really helped me with that. Yeah.
So you worked with this company, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
And what drove you to come back home?
Yeah. After my time at that company, I had a short stint at a couple of other places of employment, in the Indianapolis area. But then my wife and I, we became pregnant with our first child.
She might argue with you on that term "we."
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, she did all the work. But when we found out we were pregnant, I made that decision right then and there. I said I don't want to raise my daughter in the city. And it just made us question everything. It made us just relook and reevaluate our life and where we wanted to be. And what's funny is, at the time I was with my wife, we had been together for several years, and she always told me, she said, I will never move to Pike County. That's what she told me. I will never do it. And now we're here. So I always like to give her some crap about that. But now that she's spent some time here, she grew up in the Muncie area, so she kind of grew up in that city-like environment. So the small town feel, the small town interactions, she didn't know how to handle those. So when we moved back down here and we're out in public and so many people knew who I was, so many people would just stop and talk to us, that kind of weirded her out for a little bit. And then she gradually became accustomed to it. And then I think now she loves it.
Pike County can certainly grow on you.
Yeah. That you're a transplant, right?
So from Evansville, West Side. Never thought I'd leave the West Side.
Yeah, it's funny. We have those ideas of where we're going to end up in our head, and life and God seems to turn those plans upside down.
God's providence is different than what we understand, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So wouldn't you rather raise Harmony and now Cassian?
Yeah. We just welcomed our second child in the world.
In Pike County.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter where you live, there's going to be problems, no matter what. But I think what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of problems do you want to deal with, and what kind of problems do you not want to deal with? My issue with the city was it was way too unpredictable. Around here, I think a little bit of excitement is good here and there, but I like how quiet things are. I like how steady things are. I like the consistency of the community, and I think that's a wonderful place to raise kids. Because what you have to understand is whenever you're having kids, you want to build that foundation, and you want them to have a strong foundation. And if you grow up with a strong community that is willing to help each other, those are good morals and values to be placing in the foundation of your child's upbringing. And so that was something that I was really interested in.
So you're coming back home and you're developing up here, and then on paper, your business plan for Query Productions. How did you get started with that? What was your first step? Piece of paper on the back of an envelope?
My business has slowly adapted over time. Initially, I was fresh out of high school and I started freelancing. I started doing weddings and events and things like that. And I would make a little bit of money here and there. I pulled together $300 of my own money when I was in high school to purchase my first camera and lens. And from there, I used that lens and that camera for a while, worked some jobs, made a little bit of money. And then I took that money and I lumped it back into the business. And I did that over time, years after years. And
lived on macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Ramen noodles.
I think everybody's entrepreneur story has a different trajectory. For me, it was just, it wasn't feasible for me to launch my business and for it to sustain itself immediately. It took me 8-9 years. And what I'll also say about those 8-9 years of me just freelancing on the side, I had a day job. That's what was paying my bills. And then the money I was making on the side, I was just lumping back into the business. And then eventually it got to the point where I had all the gear that I needed. And I had the tools in order to accomplish the job. At that time, I had gained the communication skills in order to be able to communicate and speak to clients. I had the network. I had met a bunch of people, and I had established those business relationships already. So then I kind of reached a point in time where if you were to have a checkbox of all the things that a business coach would recommend that you have before you take your business full time, I had all those boxes checked. And so I had to ask myself, okay, I've got all these boxes checked. I need to make a decision right now. Am I going to take this full time, or is it just going to be a side job for, the remainder of my career? And I also figured out, I said, if I'm not going to take it full time now, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to take it full time. I think I would sit on it for the rest of my life.
You're going to become too comfortable with that paycheck.
Yeah. That standard, that steady paycheck is really nice, and having the benefits. I mean, my time at Allegiant, I had unlimited paid vacation.
Wow. Comp time.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I had amazing benefits. I had great pay, and to kind of go from that and take several steps backward in the amount of money I was making, it was a big risk. But I had to figure out what was making me happy and what I was called to do. And so I spoke to God about it, so many occasions. And what I noticed was, as I kept praying about it and as I kept discerning what I was supposed to do, and also recognizing how unhappy I was in a day job, eventually I just started noticing these doors opening. And I would walk through one, and it was like a fresh opportunity. And I'd walk through that door, and it would open up a new door. But each door, it was like I was taking a chance. And now I don't know how many doors I've walked through at this point, but I'm so glad that I did. Yeah.
Great story. What was your first project when you got back to Pike County?
My first project.
Wedding?
Well, the weddings are interesting. I've done a lot of weddings. I've kind of slowed down that portion of my business because I recognize that there is a need in southern Indiana for high quality commercial grade video production.
That's where I was trying to lead you, hoping that's what you came to. So you're focusing on commercials for businesses and saying this is how we can help your business grow.
Yeah, there's an immense opportunity in southern Indiana for I think video production in general, and I encourage other videographers to consider starting up their business around here, because I think the demand is slowly. I mean, the potential is here, but the demand for services seems low because there's not much of an industry here. But that doesn't mean that there's a lack of potential. It just means that it's unrealized potential. So that's what I'm trying to tackle. I'm trying to get plugged into the community and start providing these commercials and high quality content for different clients. And as I'm pushing forward, I hope that I'm kind of paving the way for a larger industry to kind of come in behind me. That would be my goal. I don't want it to seem so self-serving. I want to impact the community in such a way that more people in my profession can come here and do what I'm doing, because there's such a need. There's more of a need than I can handle, right? I'm in this weird state of my business right now where I've got too much work to handle on my own, but I'm not quite making enough money to be able to hire somebody just yet. Now I think that's going to quickly change, but I'm just in this weird gray area right now. And that's like the growing pain that I'm trying to figure out right now. How do I scale my business up? Especially when there's so few businesses like mine in the area that I could look at and maybe get advice from. I'd have to go to, maybe a larger city in order to get some of that advice. But then the advice that they're giving me is based off of their experience in a city, not in a smaller community like this.
Muncie and Evansville and Indianapolis.
Yeah. So it has to be tailored. It has to be a tailored approach. So I ask myself, how can I benefit my community? And I look around and I see the need for high quality social content. And so, and commercial grade video production. And so that's something that I'm really, really, really interested in. Yeah.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting. Let's take a quick 60 seconds to hear from our episode sponsors.
WFPC Podcasting is sponsored in part by Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, located right here in Pike County on State Road 64, just west of the Arthur Junction near the new Pike County EMS building. Besides excavating and dirt work, Hathaway Excavating adds a rock yard to their bundle of services, along with all kinds of dirt work, septic cleaning, septic installs, and always local friendly service. Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, 812-582-2646. Recently, the real estate market has been unpredictable. But at Harris Real Estate, we still have clients looking for homes and properties. Let us help you sell your home and or property and or find your next one. We're local. We know the business. We know the community. Harris Real Estate has listed and sold hundreds of properties right here. Harris Real Estate, 812-380-1065. And when you wash your car or vehicle on a regular basis, there are many advantages. You're easier to see, you preserve the life of your vehicle, help maintain its value, protect its paint, prevent corrosion, and it just looks better. It only takes 6 quarters or your credit card to get it started. Stop by Petersburg Car Wash today. Petersburg Car Wash, home of the springtime yellow Mustang. 401 South 9th Street, Petersburg. Thanks to you, our audience, WFPC Podcasting is growing. Since the first episode was launched May 28th, 80,000 views, including full episodes and social media views, have come in, and it's growing. People are coming back and watching the original programs for the first time. We appreciate you. If you have a business or product that you would like to advertise, and if we're a good fit for each other, contact us, 812-354-2006. Thanks again for watching. Tell us how that is growing into you've teamed up with a buddy of yours, and you're producing some pretty high grade films. And those are growing. How many? You've got 2 that are out. Tell us about those. And then you've got 1 or 2 that you're working on.
Yeah. So we, I got to give props to my partner in crime here, Jacob Steneker. Jacob has been my partner in movie making crime for several years now. I remember when I first started working with Jacob, it was around 2019 or so, and I had put out a casting call on Facebook for a role for a small, low budget short film. And Jacob's girlfriend, now wife, told him, "Hey, you should do that." And so Jacob and I were friends in school, but we had kind of lost contact.
I was going to say there's only a couple years difference, and you went to the same school.
Oh yeah, we were in the same school. We were in the same robotics program.
Okay.
So I mean, we were familiar with each other. But after graduating high school, we kind of went our own ways. But then we kind of reconnected for that short film, Retney, and he came on. He acted. We had a great time. That short film went on to win several awards, and it really inspired him. He came back to me a handful of weeks later. He said, "Hey, I've got this short film idea. It's a short film Western. Would you be interested in helping me make it?" And I said, yeah, absolutely.
Shorts, I'm thinking 8 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, like 15. Yeah, less than 15 minutes or so. And that got such critical acclaim locally that there was a demand for a feature-length version of it. So that's where we took that, and that's where we ended up working on Cold Cross. And you want to talk about, I was talking about opening, those doors opening. This is what I was talking about. Like, this is one of those, I mean, thousands of instances where there was a door kind of opened and we had to discern what we wanted to do. And then we decided to trust God and walk through it. And look at where it led us. A low budget, no budget short film turned into a little bit of a higher budget Western short film, which then led into a feature length film. We had no idea where that feature length film was going to go. I mean, we were operating on purely like hopes and dreams and money we were getting from GoFundMe, right? We raised like $20,000 locally, put $10,000 of our own money into it. So we're talking a maximum budget of $30,000, right? Over the course of 2 years, we worked on this project. And then once we launched it, we had 4 sold out red carpet premiere events. And then right after that, we scored international distribution from a UK distributor. And I have the wildest story about how we got distribution. I mean, it is unbelievably fortunate.
Well, tell us. Let's go into that in just a second. What are the red carpet events you're telling us about?
Yeah. So we had 2 red carpet events up in Indianapolis, and 2.
Who's hosting those red carpets?
Yeah, we were at a local theater. We rented out these theaters, and we planned the events and crafted all the swag and the posters and the DVD offerings, and we just we're talking black tie event. That's what we set up. People came in.
How many people would come in for this? 10, 20?
Oh, no. More than that. We had over the course of all 4 of our premieres, we had hundreds.
Wow.
Yeah. We had 4. I mean, you want to think about it. We had 4 sold out red carpet events. So we filled a theater 4 times in a row for a short $30,000 indie film budget, film. And that was just beyond unbelievable for us. Yeah.
Who did you invite?
It is, I talked about how it was hard for me to establish those emotional connections with people in a workplace environment. I eventually hit a point where I could not sustain that any longer. Filmmaking is a team sport. It is not a me sport. And I needed to branch out. I needed help. I needed crew. I needed more cast members. And so I had to force myself to open up and build these connections with people. But here's the thing. That is one of the things that leads to a film's success, is building that connection. You build that connection, you bring people onto your set and they have a good time. What are they going to do? They're going to go out and they're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about it and they're going to kind of become your champions. So that's a part of our strategy. We love having people come on set because it gives them a new experience. And then they go out and they kind of share that experience with other people. And then after a while, our reputation grows. And you do that dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And all of a sudden, you've got all these people that are going out into the world and talking to their family, talking to their friends, talking to their network, talking to their connections, talking to their coworkers. And all of a sudden, you've got all these people that are interested in showing up. Right? So, but that's not to say that you should just bring people on just so that it's beneficial to you. This has to be. We wanted to craft an experience that was fun and engaging for all that were participating. Right? We reached out to local high schoolers. Whenever we would have productions in certain areas, we would reach out to local high schools and we would say, "Hey, if you have any high school students who are interested in filmmaking, this is what we're doing. They should come on." We had high school interns on set, and we're not trying to I had some people that criticized us for that. They said, "Oh, you're just trying to get free labor out of high schoolers." I said, "Oh, that's not it at all. We've got all the help that we need, but the goal is to get people here and give them a new experience, a new perspective. We expect our high schoolers to know exactly what they want to do without having any of the experience in what they want to do. So if you have some high schoolers who are interested in film or media, giving them that experience on set could make or break their decision on if they want to pursue that or not. That's wildly beneficial. And so that's kind of our strategy. So we try to engage the community as much as possible, because it's fun for us and it's fun for the community to have, a local film production crew in the area. It's fun.
So mention when somebody wants to sit on their phone and Google, how do they find a couple of the things that you've already produced?
Yeah, so you can go to quarryproductions.com, and there's a tab at the top called Stream, and you click on that tab and it'll take you to a streaming page. And on that streaming page, you can stream 3 of the short films that Jacob and I have produced together. You've got Retney, you've got Cold Creek, which is the prequel short film to our Western feature-length film. And then you've got our latest short film, which is a mental health initiative project called She's on the Run. And that one was a blast to work on. That's our latest project. Yeah, featuring local talent, Zavery Wiseman, coming on. And, that was a very powerful short film. And we spent about $15,000 on that short film. And people would ask us, where did you get that money? Well, we got that money from our international distribution. From the money that we made off of our feature-length film, we took some of that money and we lumped it into the next project, right? And that's how that project began. But really, it started with a story. That's what it all starts with. It starts with the story. And we had a very, very compelling story that Jacob Steneker's brother, Justin Steneker, wrote this very powerful and very emotional song called She's on the Run. And from that song, I remember the first time that I heard that song, and I told Jacob, I said, hey, there's something here. I don't know what it is. It could be a short film. It could be a music video. I don't know, but I kind of see a vision here. And that was years ago. That was like 2-3 years ago when I first heard that song. So when Jacob and I, right after our feature-length film, we were kind of figuring out what's the next step. She's on the Run was the natural progression of what we wanted to do. So we took our earnings, we lumped it into this film. We partnered with local police to film an unbelievable police chase through the streets of Petersburg. We brought on local talent, and we premiered that at our local high school, Pike Central High School. So it was. So what I'm trying to say is, it was a community project. We partnered with the Family Health Center so that we could turn this into a true mental health initiative project, and hopefully have a beneficial impact on some of the younger individuals in our community that are having, a really tough time with anxiety and depression. This world will really beat you down. And, the primary message we wanted to provide in She's on the Run was, there's hope, there's light, keep moving forward. Keep pushing on.
Is there a Christian theme to this?
Absolutely. Jacob and I, it's taken us some time to figure out exactly what kind of Christian filmmakers we want to be. You have your, I would say, classic Christian storytellers who create these, I don't want to sound super negative, but I would call them very clinically clean worlds. Sterile, yeah. Your Hallmark style, and there's a place and a time for that content. People really enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. There absolutely is nothing wrong with that. But I always had a hard time connecting with some of those clinical Christian films because not enough was at stake.
They're cookie cutters.
Yes. How can you have good without the bad? We cannot gloss over the bad in order to appease our inner desires for good. We have to be able to see that bad so that we appreciate and recognize the good and want to go out and do good. So Jacob and I, we finally figured it out. We don't want to make Christian films. We want to make films and stories about the fallen world, and how are our Christian characters interacting with that fallen world. That's the kind of stories that we want to tell. Those are I find that to be super compelling. And I think whenever you are in that sort of framework, I think that's where you have the true potential for changing mindsets, and potentially, converting people to Christianity.
We are the salt and light, but we're in the world, and we've got to keep it above the world.
Yeah. Sometimes that requires us having to deal with unpleasant things. Yeah.
I stopped you and I moved you on to another subject, but you were getting ready to tell us a story about how you got this distribution out of Great Britain. Did you say England, or did?
Our distributor, Screenbound, is a United Kingdom distributor, and we at the time when we were getting ready to launch Cold Cross, and we were drafting the Blu-ray release, the Blu-ray director's cut of the film, and I was having a heck of a time trying to figure out how to do the Blu-ray main menu system. I had bought several programs. I was trying to make it work. It was not looking the way that I wanted it to. And so eventually I reached a point where I said, I got to outsource this. I can't do this anymore. So I got onto Fiverr.com, all right, and I found a contractor. I found actually a handful of contractors that do Blu-ray menus professionally. And I narrowed it down to two people. One was more expensive and the other one was a little bit less expensive. But the more expensive one, I had all my wife was telling me, I'll just go with the inexpensive, the less expensive one, it just makes more sense, helps with the budget, totally makes sense, logical decision. But I was like, there's something about this more expensive guy. I don't know what it is. I think I like his quality a little bit more, and I don't want to skimp out on this. I think I want to go with him. And so I made that decision, even though I was kind of advised against doing so. I made that decision to hire that guy, and he comes back to me and he goes, hey, I work for a United Kingdom distributor, and I showed the trailer of your film to my boss, and he's interested in signing your film.
That was worth that little extra money, huh?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Again, one of those doors that just opened up. And I was perplexed, because all this time I had heard for years how difficult it was for independent filmmakers to get distribution. And all the American distributors, all you hear about is how often they just try to screw over the independent filmmakers. You just hear these horror story after horror story. You get on the Reddit forums and you just want to rip your hair out, because you're like, I don't know how I can make this work.
Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? Right. But we were so fortunate and so blessed to have this opportunity pop up that we weren't even really looking for. It kind of came to us. And it's just, we're unbelievably grateful for that. Yeah.
What is next?
Next?
Yeah. It's going to be a progression. You're going to continue to grow. I'm always worried that you're going to be too busy for me. But how is Query Productions growing, and what's coming next?
Yeah, what's the next big thing is we're going to be having the ribbon cutting for my brand new office space, right? I think when this episode airs, I think the actual ribbon cutting will be the day before.
It was yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, right? But I'm so looking forward to that. I've got a great story about that office space too. That again, I talk about these doors opening. It's just the grace of God continues to shine down on me and the world, and I think I'm more self-aware of it than I've ever been, and I recognize these little moments and these little these little happenings. And I'm just, I don't think humble is even the right word. I just experienced these things and I'm just so grateful for them. At the time, for the last handful of years, when I finally took my business full time a couple of years ago, I was working out of my basement in my house. And as my family continues to grow, it quickly became clear to me that, hey, I can't work out of my basement forever. I've got to have work-life separation. But how in the world am I going to afford a building? How in the world am I going to make this work? And so
you went to Ashley for a little bit at EDC at Book to Send.
I had mentioned. Well, first I spoke with you. We had started working on WFPC podcasting, and we were kind of early in our relationship. And I just kind of casually mentioned to you. I said, hey, I'm not like desperately looking for a place, but hey, I'm kind of, I'd like to look around and see and see what opportunities there are in the Pike County area. And you graciously took me on a trip. We were out for a couple of hours, and you showed me the ropes. You showed me a handful of different buildings, and then towards the end, you go, hey, I got a space, and I don't know what you're going to think about it, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. And so you take me to this little block building.
And a friend of mine who had said, I really don't want to list it.
Yeah, right. It wasn't even listed, right? And you show me this little block building, and I'll never forget, I walked through that door, and as soon as I walked through the door, I had this vision. I said, I know what I'm going to do here. I know I'm going to put the kitchenette. I know where my desk is going to go. I know where my client viewing area is going to go. I know where the TV is going to go. I know where all this stuff is going to go. I saw it. I knew what color the walls were going to be. I knew what color the ceiling was going to be. I don't know how, but I just knew these things. And so we walked out of there, and then I walked out and I said, wow, I have a vision for this space. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for it. So I happened to be at the tech center one day, and I mentioned to Ashley Willis, I said, hey, I'm maybe looking at getting a space or so. I'm kind of concerned about funding, but, and I wasn't even asking her for advice. I just kind of mentioned it in passing. And she said, oh, well, you should apply for a revolving loan fund through the county. I think you would be great for a revolving loan fund. And I said, I don't know what that is. And she explained that it was a loan that's specifically for small businesses that could potentially have an economic impact on the area. My business qualifies for that because the whole point in my business is marketing. I come in, I help market for these different businesses in the area. I could have a significant impact on some of these businesses and their bottom line. So I applied, and after a while of going through that process, I was graciously approved for a revolving loan fund, which I'm so grateful to the county for and helping me, get that figured out. I took a significant reduction in the interest rate for this building, which is hugely beneficial. So it's like again, door after door after door. God answers all these prayers. God answers all of these questions. And then soon after I placed an offer on that building, I'm talking to my dad about this space, and I'm telling him about it, and I'm telling him what my vision is for it. And then he looks at me and he goes, where is this building at? And I explained it to him. I said, oh, well, it's on this road. It's right across the street from soccer field and yada, yada, yada. And he looks at me and he goes, your great grandfather used to own that building. He sold, his car lot was there. He sold and worked on cars out of that lot. He said, I've spent a lot of time at that place and all this, I was dumbfounded.
Your great grandpa being Buck Query, Buck and Ida May.
Yes. Yeah. I was dumbfounded. I was, and I didn't know what.
And at the time I showed it to you, I had not put the dots together. I knew it at the time,
yeah,
but forgotten it.
So it's just like sign after sign pointed me in this direction. And I just kept saying, I don't know where this is going to lead. I don't know where this is going to go, but I trust that God has a plan, because every time I run into a roadblock, something happens in this, and the roadblock opens up and I'm able to pass. And so now here I am, months later. I took ownership of the building, and I've been in heavy renovations. It's just a small, humble block building, and it had a small bathroom in there and a mini split. And so I come in with some help. I redo all of the walls. I add insulation. We redo the electrical. I add in a kitchenette, redo the bathroom.
I would see you there late at night.
Yeah, working super late nights. Sometimes my wife and I would be there, would be painting the walls, and our toddler would be sleeping in the car. But we did what we had to do in order to get across the finish line. And here we are. We're looking at the official ribbon cutting for this building. And I don't know for certain. I could be wrong about this, but I'm gonna take a wild stab that Quarry Productions is probably the first established
LLC.
Well, I would say the first established video production company in the county with its own brick and mortar space. I don't know for a fact there has been any other videographer with their own space, their own office space, but I could be wrong about that. But if I am wrong about it, that does not change my vision for having a positive impact on the community, and that's truly what I want to do. Yeah, I want to get involved. I want to get involved in potentially politics, in different boards. I want to stay, and I want to help benefit the community. I don't want to be one of those people that's sitting back and complaining about how things are in our community. I want to step up. I want to complain, and I want to do something about it. That's what I vow to do.
Well, you are quickly becoming involved and an integral part of the community, and we so appreciate it. I guess, I knew a lot of your family. You and I didn't have much of a connection while you were growing up, but I've always known the Quarries, and several members of your family. So
yeah,
we're glad you're back. We're glad you've brought a new generation to Pike County.
It's tough. I know that is that's a concern within the community. Is are we retaining our younger generations, our younger families? And I know that economic development. Ashley Willis is that's a primary focus over there. Is how do we directly benefit that generation? And so, but we're sticking it out. We want to be in this area, and if things are tough, that's okay, because sometimes the most magical and the most profound and powerful moments that you encounter in your life are very difficult. Yeah, like kids.
Yeah, Dylan, we so appreciate you. We appreciate all the effort you put into WFPC podcasting.
Yeah, this is a great. Randy, whenever you first approached me about WFPC, I wasn't entirely sure what to think. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but you had a vision for it, and I wanted to help you see that vision and have that vision come to life. And here we are. We're 20 plus episodes in. In the last 3 months alone, we've had over 50,000 views on our social media. I mean, we've had incredible engagement. And what is our primary goal? Our primary goal is communicating information and telling stories about our community. People are connecting with that, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. Where else would you rather be than Pike County, Indiana?
Yeah. Well,
a friend was texting me earlier today. Said, I'm sitting on the beach, and I said, well, it's sunny and 85 in Petersburg. That may have been a bit of a stretch today. being late October and probably 60 degrees, but
I just try not to get caught up in looking at the greener grass on the other side of the fence. God has called me to be here, and I can pick apart what all of the issues are, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, Dylan, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all that you're doing. We appreciate Maddie and the babies.
Yeah. Thank you, Randy.
Thanks for joining us for this program of WFPC Podcasting. The program is brought to you by Harris Real Estate, Hathaway Excavating and Rock Yard, and Petersburg Car Wash. Please like the podcast and share with your friends so more people can hear about WFPC. You may find WFPC Podcasting on our website, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite media. Join us next Friday for another WFPC podcast exploring the people, information, and news right here in Pike County. See you next week.
Thanks for watching WFPC Podcasting, your local source for the heart and history of Pike County, Indiana. From back roads to town centers, we bring you the voices, stories, and news that shape our community. Join us on this journey through the past, present, and future of Pike County, Indiana. Tune in next week for the next episode of WFPC Podcasting.